Day one,
We made it to Guatemala City.
they took us on a tour to see the Parliament buildings, talked about the history.
This is the Roman Catholic Church.
You can see on the door there the cross and the sun god.
Massive organ right above where you walked in.
This is right after we arrived
in Tactique.
in Tactique. 5-hour bus ride.
And then we had a long walk up the hill.
Met our translator Leah and our tour guide Ervin.
This is one of the more exciting things that we did. When we went to this school, everyone lined up with balloons and welcomed us, and firecrackers, and it's really cool to see that.
We had morning worship with them, and then we went and did a market activity where we had to use some Spanish. And
terrible Spanish.
Here we are hanging out, squished into a little Guatemalan home, visiting Dave and Linda's sponsor child who is graduating this year.
And we learned that whenever you go to a home, you just accept whatever they give you.
Here is actually Charlie Lake Church's classroom that we sponsored. We got to play soccer with these kids. They were full of life. They were so fun, so full of joy.
You'll notice that I'm not wearing any shoes, and after the game, it was very regrettable.
I think the Guatemalans won.
I'm not sure about that.
They shared some food with us and some thoughts with us, and then we headed to visit Wilson.
This was probably one of the more poor communities that we went to. And you can see there's just very little there.
Day 3, we visited the Catholic Church in Tactique. This is Christ in the Cornfield. There's quite a story about how this church came about and the syncretism between the Mayan culture and the Catholic Church. This is overlooking Tactique. It was absolutely beautiful up on top of the hill there. Then we were off to visit more sponsored children.
I missed this day. This was day 1 of my stomach bug that I got. I think I started off the group with that, and then it seemed to go through at least 80% of us.
So you can see people don't just necessarily get to drive up to their houses. Everyone's on the beaten path. And here we are face painting and doing crafts at VBS.
This is pretty interesting. I was feeling better this day. And then we went for a little hike. We had to kind of pay to park the vehicle at this, it looked like a concrete batch plant. And then we walked up a hill and then down into this big mouth opening cave thing.
Sinkhole.
Sinkhole. No, I don't think it's called a sinkhole. Sinkhole is it's a sinkhole. This was the shoemaking right above where we stayed on Impact Ministries land.
They make shoes for every student in their schools.
This is the orphanage, but it's basically treated as a foster's home because the Guatemalan political system won't allow them to open up an orphanage.
They also got to visit the greenhouses that are on the Guatemalan Impact Ministries property.
All the pretty flowers of Guatemala.
These are just outside the cookhouse that you can see there, and
which is attached to the church, the Impact Church, their main Vita church.
And then this yellow building is the guest house. It was absolutely charming. It had a little, you can see a courthouse.
Courtyard in the middle.
Courtyard in the middle. And then they had a little laundry room. Not that we did our laundry there, but it was for the facility, for the people who work there. This was Sunday afternoon. We got to church in the morning, and then we headed back out onto the Impact property to visit their coffee plantation. They have 13 acres under cultivation, and they could take the beans all the way, they grew the beans and they took them all the way right up to the point where they were roasted. So they sorted them and they dried them and they put them in bags, and then they would send them off to be roasted. And it's a great source of employment for local people that Impact can offer the community, and also a great source for teams to come home with some really good coffee.
What you just saw there is the separating process, kind of like a thrashing, but it's basically where they're washing and separating out the beans.
This evening we got invited to join a small group Bible studies potluck dinner, and they're going to teach us how to make tortillas. They let us cook with them and join in this cultural meal. They had smoked the meat the day before. It was so delicious. And they were just really fun and welcoming. They had games prepared for us and shared a little bit of their faith and their hope with us. And then this was a little hut off the side of the house that they were making this tomato base with lots of cilantro sauce, basically, that you ate your tortillas and your steamed meat with. And you can't really tell, but it was just like pouring down rain there. And it's just warm and everyone's comfortable. It was unique.
They had us take turns kind of stirring that pot there. And
that's the meat that we would put in the sauce.
And then after a while, the lady kind of took over on us because we weren't doing it right.
That was your group.
Oh, yeah.
So this is a corn-based. We had these tortillas just about every day. Here we made them into little dumplings, but then we also, you had to pat them with your hands and then turn them into like this flat tortilla, and it was so challenging. It
wasn't that challenging.
It was hard.
No, it wasn't that bad.
Did you even make one?
Oh yeah, it was kind of like a steamed dumpling. You'd unwrap that wrap again.
The dumpling was easy. Like the tortillas that you made with your hands were hard.
Oh, we didn't even get to do that.
Yeah, they saw you coming.
Probably.
There's another school. We were running around to different schools and connecting with students that we sponsor.
You'll notice all the Vita schools are painted that blue.
Yes. This is another classroom that we got to work with for VBS, and also had the opportunity to connect and sponsor them. Here's our craft supplies set out. More face painting.
Rihanna in her glory and getting to face paint.
The students in the front, you can see, are teaching them this choreographed dance, and so they're the junior high students, and they bring them in, and it's like a mentorship program where these students are working towards becoming teachers through the Vita program, and then they get to work with the children and interact with them and do the Bible story and other activities. Well, we just did the games and the crafts for the VBS. The 3 days of VBS we got to take part in.
So one thing to note in Guatemala, each school is kind of round the clock. So the morning is the elementary, then they go home, and then afternoons becomes the junior high school.
This was an amazing evening. We played, other team members than me, played a soccer game against the teachers of the Vita schools. And all of the students came and watched their teachers play, and it was just absolutely electric. Their engagement with one another and just the joy that was coming off of all of these young people, and the teachers that they would stay and give up their evening to just hang out with the team was so generous of them.
So not every school had an indoor soccer pitch like this, but this was one of the schools that this was attached to the school, which is just pretty phenomenal when you think about it.
And actually, I think teams that had gone in the past from Charlie Lake Church had hauled sandbags and bricks up the hill to help in the construction of this particular soccer pitch.
I think you're right, actually. Yeah, they were talking about that.
I think this was probably one of the highlights for a lot of our youth on our trip to.
And adults, it was just.
It was so fun.
Yeah.
Here's June's birthday cake. She got to celebrate her birthday, and so Claudia was our cook. She was a phenomenal cook, and she was so kind, and she made that beautiful cake for June. And we ate it with all those teachers after the soccer game. And then this is the morning we're getting ready to leave. They had firecrackers, and of course, there was unspent firecrackers, so they needed to be lit off in the morning before we could make our way.
And myself, as the responsible adult with my steel toes, was the one observing the boys, guiding them through this.
So because there had been some road protest blockage or whatever, we weren't able to visit a couple children. So we just did a quick little connection with a couple kids, and now we are on the road to Antigua, and there's just all the things to see on the road.
So Tactique is about 5-6 hours northeast of Guatemala City, and Tactique is about an hour and a half-ish southwest of Guatemala City.
Antigua is a half an hour southwest.
Yes, yeah. Antigua is half hours. So we would have to go all the way through the city and then southwest. And this is just on the highway. This is just, when you run out of seats, you just hop in.
This is coming into Guatemala City, and now we're in Antigua, and they took us up to this beautiful lookout point where we could see, they had this monument, and this was about as touristy as it got, but in that cloud there, you would see a volcano that...
Inactive. That one's the inactive, and then as it pans to the right, there's actually a active volcano that later on we got to see little...
kind of behind those trees.
Bursts of smoke come out, and...
That big yellow building was the Catholic church, and there's a big cross up on the hill. Mm-hmm. And it was just a nice time to wind down after a long car ride and take in the volcano views.
We're all still smiling and happy, which is good.
We dropped off our stuff where we were going to spend the night, and then they took us on this night walk through the city, which was beautiful.
This is a Starbucks.
It's the nicest Starbucks. Nobody even ordered a drink. It was just delightful to be in this open air coffee shop.
This is kind of the monument.
Famous arch. Didn't it connect the church with the monastery, so the nuns could
walk back and forth. This is in the next morning. We went out for coffee and it was just a gorgeous morning. Kind of neat to see the busyness of the city. So that's the same volcano we were looking at earlier.
This is that arch that the nuns would walk through.
I think it's so they wouldn't have to step on the street and they can just walk back and forth.
But yeah, from the church to the monastery.
So that white building is a church, and then this would be the ruins of that same church on the back side of it. This is kind of really cool to see this architecture, and it's still standing, but as you can see, there's parts of it that have collapsed, and most of it's been cleaned up, but some of the rubble is still there.
And underneath it, there was these caves. I don't know if they would have been tombs, or I'm not sure what they were. This is one of them. You could go right down into it. You kind of had to stoop to get down. This was also part of this is where the nuns lived. I don't have a picture of it, but you'd go in there, and how big were those rooms? They were tiny.
Mm-hmm.
Were they 7 by 7? That's where the nuns lived.
This just has amazing acoustics inside of here, and we went in and just praised. This is actually a McDonald's. And then we are on our way home.
The Vancouver airport, we had this huge layover, and we were a little bit dreading it. But it was really delightful to kind of wind down and chill out and catch our breath, and just the kids played. We had scavenger hunts. We made the most of it, and Vancouver airport was actually really great. Everyone spoke English.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Regula really desperately wanted to take that home, but we told her no.
Everyone's winding down and getting a little tired. And here we are, just waiting for our flight, ready to be back.
I think that morning we were up at 2 or 3 in the morning, and then we had the night flight back home. And get back to Fort St. John around 11 at midnight.
Welcomed by snow and our lovely Kim and Randy at the
Yeah.
airport.